Hey guys, welcome into Fantasy Football Academy 2020. As always, I am the Dean, your host, and coming into you on a special Wednesday edition. We're talking good and bad environment for running backs. That's right, you guys. I've been talking about my environmental drafting, so today we're going to get into some running backs who are in a good environment, some who are in a bad environment. But first, we're going to hit off with some news for you guys. Fresh off the presses, we've got the Niners signing some more receivers to take care of their depleted wide receiver core. Now, guys, look, you're going to hear these names. You're going to hear J.J. Nelson, Tavon Austin. You've heard these guys before. They lost Jalen Hurd recently to a torn ACL. He's getting season-ending surgery. Jerron Brown, former Seahawk, has been signed to the Niners. And look, all this is great, but we all know that the passing game in San Fran runs through George Kittle. So don't worry too much about trying to go out and find out which wide receiver you can target for your fantasy team, because there should be no fantasy receiver from the Niners making your roster this year, okay? The only option that I would see there would be Brandon Ayuk, and he is definitely one to keep an eye on. Professor Chet had mentioned him on one of our previous episodes, so that's something to keep an eye on. Also, we're talking Des Bryant. Remember, he had shown up in Baltimore to try out. We're trying to find out, we're keeping an eye on seeing what happens there, see if they sign him or not, because there's also been a rumor that AB wants to show up there. If AB goes there, look for Des Bryant to not be. AB is definitely closer to the NFL shape than Des Bryant is. Bryant hasn't played since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Also, the drama with Dalvin Cook continues. I heard one report coming from another YouTube channel talking about how they didn't know what was going on with Dalvin Cook. He was being held out. No, he's not being held out. As if you listen to the fantasy footballers like I do, they were talking about a hold in, which this new CBA, as they pointed out, is kind of lending itself, because, I mean, these guys are losing $50,000 a day. And before, I think it was like 5,000 they were losing a day. So that really didn't hit them too hard. But this new CBA that they have, every day that they hold out, they're missing $50,000 out of their pockets. So that would get me into camp. The only thing is, doesn't say that you have to participate, just says that you have to be in attendance. So it's kind of like showing up to school, saying you didn't skip, and going to sleep in the back of the class. So that's basically what Dalvin Cook's doing. He's like, hey, you guys got a new deal for me? Wake me up. Otherwise, I'll be sleeping under the tree there. So we're going to see what happens there. But I would, if Dalvin Cook, I know you're probably not listening to this, but if anybody who's around him is, you might want to look to Denver and ask Melvin Gordon how that worked out for him. When he's got a good backup behind him, like Alexander Madison is, I don't think it worked out too good for Melvin Gordon. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Not a whole lot of other things to report. I mean, here, the thing I caution you guys against in this COVID world is that these reporters, these beat reporters that are reporting on all these teams, because every team has its own beat reporter, okay? Everybody has that one team that they specialize in, and that's who you go to for that team's information. Like the Washington has their beat writer, the Cowboys, the Saints, the Niners. These guys have to write about something. I mean, they still have jobs. They still have to get information out, and they're pulling every single thing. So when you guys see all these, fluff pieces, the bombs, the Mike Evans, the hitting Godwin over the middle coming out of Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, that's great, but it's just fluff. They're not going against anybody who's really going to hit them. Okay. So nobody's touching any of the quarterbacks. So as good as these guys look, they're still not really under pressure. They're not really having that fear, that adrenaline kick in. They're just practicing. That's it. Okay, this isn't game scripted. This isn't game time. So don't get too caught up with the fluff pieces. Now, when you see injury reports come out, when you see things being said like, this guy needs to step up and that guy needs to do this, coming from coaches from a negative standpoint, pay attention to those. Okay, so little tips and tricks here to kind of help you weed through this COVID world that we're living in now, this COVID season we're about to embark on. So, okay, so first of all, environmental drafting. What is that? And the environmental drafting goes beyond the draft, okay? The environment is ever changing, just like the real world around you. You get the different seasons, you get, the weather changes, things like that change your environment. Sometimes it's as easy as the sun rising and it's a beautiful day and everything's hunky-dory, okay? Then you get the tornado come through that you didn't expect. You get the hurricane pop up, that, you think it's going to go one way, it goes the other, and it's really bad for you. These are all environmental changes in our real world, but things like this can affect our fantasy world too, our fantasy football world. And we're going to run through right now some good environmental things that running backs are in. So off the top, you guys know I love this guy, Cam Akers. Okay, now Cam's in a unique environment, kind of set aside from the other rookies. You've got Swift in Detroit, who is sitting behind Kerryon Johnson. You've got, and he's also up in Detroit. You got a really bad O-line. You've got a really bad defense. So these guys are going to be throwing the ball all over the place. So even if he did have a starter spot just right in, he didn't have any kind of veteran in front of him, Swift would still have to be heavily involved in the pass game in order to be any kind of relevant, okay? Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. Now, he's in a unique situation that the others are not in as well. He's got one of the top-rated offensive lines. He's got a veteran quarterback, but he does have Marlon Mack and no preseason to dethrone Mack as the starter. So he's going to take at least 3 weeks. Okay, I'm talking 3 to 4 weeks before he can totally take that job over. Now, for as high as he's being drafted, you cannot afford to have that late of a start. Okay, Zach Moss in Buffalo. Zach Moss, another one where he's got Devin Singletary sitting in front of him. Yes, he does have a second-year quarterback in Josh Allen, but Josh Allen is a running quarterback. Yes, they brought in Stephon Diggs to kind of slow that down a little bit and give him another option to pass to, but Zach Moss has to dethrone Devin Singletary as the starter before he becomes any kind of relevant. Again, if you want to take a shot on Swift or Moss and hold on to him and see what happens, go right ahead. It's just going to be a roster spot that's being filled up. It's going to be unproductive for you until everything gets weeded out, and we don't know when that's going to be. Okay, so my advice, if you want Taylor, you're probably going to have to pay up for him. Make sure that you have a couple other running backs that you can depend on week to week until whatever happens in Indy. As far as Cam Akers goes, look, Akers is sliding into a spot vacated by Todd Gurley. They spent really high draft capital on this guy. He is not going to be the focal point of the offense because he's coming into a stable pass attack. Okay, they got Jared Goff, they've got Woods, they've got Cooper Kupp, they've got Everett, they've got Higbee. All these guys can take away from that. Okay, and there's really no veteran in front of Cam Akers that is going to be challenging for the starter spot. So Cam is the guy. He has the talent. He has the ability to play behind a bad O-line because he did that in college. And I understand the jump from college to the NFL is different. However, the talent is the same and it's still there, okay? So moving on to the next guy. Again, another guy I love, David Montgomery. And I'm gonna pause for a second. The guys that are on this list, you're not going to see Saquon. You're not going to see CMC on this list. You're not going to see Zeke on this list. Those guys are what I call organic runners. It doesn't matter what environment they're in. They are pure organic runners, okay? These guys are going to perform week in, week out. They're locked and loaded, and you don't have to worry about outside forces because they are a force of nature by themselves. Okay, the guys that are on this list are guys who they have certain things around them that make them in a good environment. Okay, so it's their environment that is producing these stats that you're seeing. So David Montgomery, he's a workhorse running back. He's got a coach in a hot seat, and he's got a new OC. Okay, now yet last year they were trying a whole bunch of trick plays, and it was basically like a little kid over there going, you know what would be really cool? Let's do this 4 times and see if it works. That's basically what they were doing in Chicago last year. Didn't work out. Put the coach in a bad place. So this year, look for David Montgomery to get the carries that he deserves, to get the attention that he deserves from the coaching staff, okay? David Montgomery is the man. Tyreek Cohen is the backup. Keep it straight. Keep it within the lines, okay? So I don't see any problem with drafting him and making him part of your what they call a robust RB strategy, a very running back heavy strategy. The next guy, David Johnson, and I know what you're going to say. He's older. Look at what happened in Arizona. Look, Arizona and Cliff Kingsbury, they need a specific type of running back in that system, okay? Kenyon Drake fits what they're doing in Arizona. David Johnson did not, okay? Now, David Johnson goes to Houston via the D-Hop trade. He's not the focal point, okay? They've got Deshaun Watson. They've brought in they're almost like the Niners where they brought in all these receivers to replace D-Hop. So they've got Cooks. They've got Fuller. They're not going to have David Johnson try to carry the entire team, okay? Is he capable? Yes. We know that David Johnson is capable of carrying a heavy workload, and he's got the most vacated targets of any team in the NFL, okay? 250 times they handed this ball off to Carlos Hyde last year. And let's face it, Carlos Hyde isn't that good. He just got a lot of opportunities to get a lot of points. So he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. I have absolute confidence that David Johnson can also be that 1,000-yard plus rusher with probably about another 400 or 500 yards in pass attack or in passing yards. So I think he has a better fit in Houston than Gordon has in Denver because, I mean, hey, that air up in Denver is messing with him. He's been used to running at sea level in San Diego and in LA all these years. Todd Gurley, look, when you've got the caliber receivers in Atlanta like Calvin Ridley, like Julio, and then you bring in Hayden Hurst at tight end, and you've got a defense that's just horrible. You're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And last year, Todd Gurley, if I'm not mistaken, he either led the league or he was really high up there in routes run for running backs, but he didn't get any action. So when you've got a passing attack offense like they had with the Rams, and your running back is running routes more than anybody else, and you don't throw to him, doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in a quarterback that he had been with. Now he's with a quarterback that doesn't know him, that just knows him by reputation, has no preseason to see what's what. You get in game time, it's going to take them about 2 weeks to realize why the Rams let him walk, okay? So, David Johnson, if you're stuck between DJ, Gurley, and Gordon, go with DJ. Trust me on this one. You'll be fine. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Look, this guy is shooting up the draft boards like a freaking Patriot missile, okay? So he has the confidence already of his quarterback because Pat Mahomes is the one that tugged on the sleeve of the powers that be and went, hey, I want that guy. And they went out, and guess what? They got that guy. When you give a guy a 10-year contract and $500 million, you're going to listen to him, okay? So they went out and they got him. He is basically an automatic starter simply because Damon Williams opted out, and he's basically the only option at running back right now for KC. Now, the good thing is that he's not the whole piece of the offense in KC, but he's going to be a key component in that machine. He's going to be a major cog in that wheel, okay? So, CEH, he is higher up on draft boards now. You're probably going to have to pay a mid-first round pick for him if you want him, which I have no problem with just because the opportunity and the talent is going to be there. So, strategize wisely. Now, the next guy I had on this list was prior to the news of an apparent injury, and that's Miles Sanders. Now, look, Miles Sanders, keep an eye on the injury. He got pulled out of practice. They said it's a lower body injury. Nobody, from what I've seen, nobody knows what that means, okay? It could be an ankle, it could be a hamstring, it could be a knee, it could be a hip, it could be his lower back. We don't know. So the fear of the unknown in fantasy football is real, and it is something to be paid attention to. But Miles Sanders has been said by the coaches publicly that he is going to be the man. He is going to be the workhorse running back for Doug Peterson offense. And look, there's really no wide receiving core outside of Deshaun Jackson, who's always hurt. You'll get 2, maybe 3 good games out of D-Jax, and that's it. And then you have a rookie in Jalen Reagor, and then you go to the tight ends. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, those are the only guys that are of any kind of offensive influence in Philly whatsoever. So Miles Sanders getting hurt, keep an eye on it. He may drop down. If he drops down a little bit on draft board, on draft day, I'm talking like 3rd, 4th, even 5th round, okay? Snag him up. If you've already locked up your starting lineup for your running backs, go ahead and snatch him up. If you can get him in the 4th round, because if you go running back, receiver, or if you go a mixture and go running back, receiver, you basically got your starting lineup locked, okay? Because the guys that, remember, when you're drafting, your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round has got to be guys that you will lock in every single week, regardless of matchup, these are the guys that you're going to go with, you're going to ride or die with. So that's why they have to be a low risk, high reward type player. Okay. Like Julio, CMC, Saquon, Josh Jacobs is in that mix because he's going in the second round, maybe back into the first, depending upon how big your league is. So guys like that, Derrick Henry, okay, it doesn't matter who the Titans are playing. You're locking Derrick Henry in. He's not going on your bench unless he's hurt or it's a bye week. That's it. So guys like that, you're going to lock in every single week, regardless of matchup. Lock them and leave them, and that's it. So if Miles Sanders falls, keep an eye on the injury. If it comes back and everything's fine, it gets clean bill of health before your draft starts, great. But you're going to be taking a risk if you go ahead and draft him in the first 4 rounds, which is where he had been going. Okay, so pay attention to it. Also, I've told you guys before, be locked in to other outlets of information along with this show. Go down, subscribe, like, and share for me, and I will keep you guys as updated as possible through Twitter. You can find me at FantasyDean20 on Twitter, and I will keep you guys abreast of what's going on. So if you subscribe to the show, you're watching this, go on Twitter, follow me on Twitter as well. There's a lot more. I can get out content a lot quicker through Twitter. But for the show, we're staying here on YouTube. Don't worry. But if you're not following Stephania Bell, who is the injury expert for the NFL, go follow her. She's phenomenal. You got to go and get that information that she is giving. She's the one who comes out with all the injuries every single year. Okay, she's the one who's reporting on them first. If it's major, if it has something, it's gonna affect you in fantasy. It's coming out of the NFL. It's coming out of Stephania Bell. Okay, so who did I replace Miles Sanders with on this good environment list? My boy from last year, Austin Eckler, aka Austin Eckler. Look, he's in a familiar system. There was no coaching changes in the offseason. The only thing he has is a new quarterback, and that bodes well for him. I know it's not Phillip Rivers. I know it's a toss-up between Tyrod and Justin Herbert, but listen, Tyrod's a game manager, okay? That's all he's ever been asked to do, okay? He's always been asked to just not lose a game, okay? He doesn't throw downfield a lot. He will check off. Okay, and even if it's Justin Herbert, what's better than a solid running back for a rookie quarterback? Okay, nothing. So if you guys are looking for a good environment, later round pickup, Austin Eckler is your guy, okay? Next on the list, Josh Jacobs. Look, they're going to expand his role. You're not going to go have the rookie season that he had, and he had a stellar rookie season. You're not going to have that kind of season and not get a bigger piece of the pie the next year. He hit a little rookie wall toward the end, but second year in, making the sophomore jump, there's a lot of guys in the league that are doing that. Kyler Murray is one. But Josh Jacobs, look, I got all confidence in him. They brought in some wide receivers. They've got Henry Ruggs. They brought in a couple other guys. And these guys are going to be opening up the offense. Do I really trust Carr in Vegas? Not really, but Josh Jacobs, I trust him to be good enough for Jacobs, okay? Next guy on my list, number 7, A.J. Dillon. Look, I know he's a backup. They drafted him to be the future starter because Aaron Jones is in a contract year. They've already shown that this new regime in Green Bay does not like what they've inherited. They don't like Aaron Rodgers. They drafted Jordan Love. They don't want to pay Aaron Jones, which is kind of a trend for the NFL now. Why am I going to pay this guy millions of dollars when I can get a rookie who's just as good, if not better, and ride him for 3 years on a rookie deal instead of paying you. Okay. Unfortunately, the business side of football does rear its ugly head every now and then. So, that's A.J. Dillon is a product of that. They should have gone out and gotten one of the wide receivers on the board to help Aaron Rodgers and the Packers get to a Super Bowl or at least back to the playoffs. Okay. Taking that next step for Green Bay, they are in a win now build, but the coaching staff wants to rip it all down and rebuild. Why, I don't know, but A.J. Dillon is like probably 2 games away from being the starter, okay? Because if they can justify putting him in, and look, they spent a really high draft pick to pick up Dillon. They're going to want to see what they got immediately. So there's going to be a little timeshare between him and Jones to kick off the season. Watch for it. They're going to see what he has up front. They're going to see what he has at the goal line. So all those goal line touches that Jones was getting last year, look for those to go to A.J. Dillon. So he could probably have like 10 yards and like 3 touchdowns in a game. Okay, it's not so crazy. It sounds crazy to say, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Okay, they get down at 10, the 10 in. Look, this guy is built like the Hulk. Okay, he's just huge. He's massive. You're going to give a guy like that the ball over Aaron Rodgers or over Aaron Jones. Okay, Rodgers isn't really going to care who's back there. He right now is just ticked off about himself. So, he's got that whole situation to worry about they didn't get him any help. They drafted another quarterback. Is he done? Is he washed up? Is he over with? He's got all that to worry about. He's not going to worry about the backfield. Okay. So A.J. Dillon is in a good environment, and he's going really, really late in your draft. We're talking like 12th, 13th, 14th round. Okay. If you can get a potential RB1 that late, and if something happens to where Jones gets injured, A.J. Dillon's going to step right in and take over. Okay. Another guy that's going to step right in and take over that can be a workhorse running back who did it before, Alexander Mattison. You guys know I love him. He's going later. And if this contract stuff keeps up with Dalvin Cook, they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get fed up. They're going to just set him on the bench, and Alexander Mattison is going to go in and show them what he can do and that he is worthy to be paid. So he's in a familiar system. Don't look for it to change anytime soon. They got Kubiak calling the plays up there since Stefanski left for Cleveland. So look for Alexander Mattison to step in and take over if things do not clear up with Dalvin Cook, okay? Derrick Henry. Look, Derrick Henry's in the same environment. There's nothing, literally nothing that's changed in Tennessee. He's got the same quarterback. They have the same star wide receiver in A.J. Brown. Jonnu Smith, still the tight end. Their defense is stout. So there's not a whole lot bad to say about Derrick Henry's situation. Plus, the guy's a physical freak. I mean, this guy he'll bowl you over. He's like a bulldozer in the backfield, okay? Especially once he gets going, you're not going to stop him. And this guy can go have 2 runs and rack up 140 yards and 2 touchdowns like that, okay? 2 70-yard runs, and you're done for the day. The man had like 3 carries. He wound up with 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay, so there's nothing bad to say about Derrick Henry, but I take it back. The only bad thing is that he's not going later in drafts, and you've got to pay a first-round pick for him. you've got to be in the top 4 or 5 to get Derrick Henry, depending upon how far he falls. I mean, I've seen him fall as far as 8, but that's it. Okay. Next on the list, or actually last on the list, James Conner. And I know what you're going to say, injury risk, can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field. Yes. Do I think he's set for a bounce back year? Yes. He's in a good environment, okay? And you don't have to spend a lot of draft capital to get this guy. He's going later in the drafts. So what's wrong with taking a shot on this guy, okay? Once upon a time, when he was healthy, he was a top 10 running back. So he can be that again. He's not that old. And Big Ben's back. Even if Big Ben falls off, they're still going to have to lean on the run. So as long as Connor's healthy, there's really no bad situation with him. Now, speaking of bad situations, look, you guys know Joe Mixon's going really high, okay? So Joe Mixon is number 1 on my list here. Not just because he was the first guy that popped into my head. But Joe Mixon, rookie quarterback, and I know it sounded like a broken record, but rookie quarterback, 8 in the box, he's not going to perform like he did last year with Andy Dalton, okay? Defenses respected Dalton. He's been doing it for years. They knew what they were getting. They don't respect Burrow. This is a kid coming out of college. Yeah, he had probably the most electrifying, most dominant QB performance in college football that we've ever seen. But this is the NFL. It's a little different. So I think that Burrow has what it takes, but it's going to take defenses a couple of weeks to adjust to stop him, back it up. And look, I'm not that impressed with Joe Mixon. This is, again, my personal belief. I don't believe in Joe Mixon as that high of a running back. If he was later in the draft, fine, great, no problem. But I'm not paying a first round or second round price tag for Joe Mixon. I'm not. You shouldn't either. Next on the list, Le'Veon Bell. Look, guys, this is where the big name, you start getting that glassy look on your eye going, Le'Veon Bell. Oh, my goodness. That's like going and saying that you're driving a Mercedes, but it's like a Mercedes from like 88, and it looks like a box. It's still got the Mercedes emblem on it. It's just not as cool to drive now. It's not like, you're driving a 2019 or 2020 Mercedes-Benz. You're driving that 1988 Mercedes box. That's it. Okay, that's Le'Veon Bell. Time has passed. He's not in Pittsburgh anymore. He's not running like he used to. And he's with Adam Case. Come on, guys. I've got 4 letters for you. Jets. I mean, come on. Plus the fact that they want to see what if Sam Darnold is going to be what they drafted him to be. It's his 3rd year in the league. So, Lev Bell, no, look, he's going too high. I'm totally hands off with this guy. Let someone else deal with that headache. Speaking of headaches, Aaron Jones. Look, Aaron Jones has a huge headache right behind him. We talked about it earlier with A.J. Dillon. There's going to be the regressions coming. Is he still the starter? Yes, until he screws up or he gets hurt. Okay, so Aaron Jones is not really in a good environment, and that's based on the coaching staff and the organization that he's in. If he were somewhere else and he was getting treated the way that he should be treated, because, I mean, look, the guy had a phenomenal year last year, but we're not drafting for last year, we're drafting for this year. And don't let what happened last year influence you too much. Yes, it's going to give you a window. Yes, it's going to give you, some kind of sense of where he's going to be. But He's not going to repeat what he did last year. Okay. Speaking of repeating what he did last year, Todd Gurley is next on my list. Todd Gurley, there's way too much unknown. Okay. We don't know how he's going to fit in Atlanta. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. We don't know how the knees are. And what I have a personal problem wrapping my head around is if the Rams were really done with Todd Gurley, why'd they go get Cam Akers so early? Still need a running back. So the team that drafted him, the team that he was with all those years, when they give up on you, there wasn't really any bad blood there that we knew about. So my thought process would be that they know something that's not being said. Gurley knows something that's not being said, because if he had any kind of faith in himself, he would have held out for more money, or at least a longer deal, because he's not getting any younger. He's got a one-year prove-it deal for basically a league minimum. So I'm not seeing how this works out for Gurley. It's a great storyline that he goes back home to Georgia and he plays where he played in college and all this great. That's a great storyline. But unfortunately, we don't get points in fantasy football for storylines. So, like I said before, DJ, Gurley, Gordon. Out of the three, I'm taking DJ, and that's it. And leading into this, I just spoke about Melvin Gordon. Look, I'm not just targeting Melvin Gordon. On my list next, any Denver running back. Any of the guys that they have in their backfield, I'm not touching. Okay? They're going to want to lean on Gordon because he's the name. Okay? They're going to use Phillip Lindsay, but there is way too many people back there. It's way too crowded of a backfield for my liking for fantasy football. It's not worth it. Okay? Speaking of not being worth it, any Tampa Bay running back, I don't care who it is, anybody who's ever been with Tom Brady in the backfield has not been worth fantasy value. Okay? You guys remember a few years back when the only two guys that you wanted on the Patriots offense was Tom Brady and Gronk, and that's it. There was no running back. Spreads the ball out too much to target any specific receiver. Okay? Unless your name was Edelman or Welker, you weren't worth anything. And they were only worth anything then on certain games when they were scripted in. Okay? So I'm hands off of any Tampa running back. And speaking of hands off, somebody who is hands off the team right now, Dalvin Cook. Look, you have to pay a first-round price tag to get this guy. Let someone else deal with that headache. Don't do it. Pass it on. There's better value in the first round. If you want to go after somebody in that spot, look, Clyde EdwardsHelaire is shooting up the draft board. He can easily overtake Dalvin Cook. I'll take CEH over Dalvin Cook. I'll take Derrick Henry over Dalvin Cook. Heck, I'll even take Josh Jacobs over Dalvin Cook. Okay? So when it gets to that point, it's going to fall CMC, Saquon, Zeke. That's usually how it's going. Then based upon whether or not you're playing PPR or standard, Thomas is up there. Devontae Adams is up there. They've got Aaron Jones in that mix. Pump your brakes on the Aaron Jones thing that early. Derrick Henry is up there. Josh Jacobs has been shooting up there, okay? So these guys, and Alvin Kamara, okay? But speaking of Alvin Kamara, he's the next guy on my list, and actually the last guy on my list. Alvin Kamara is in a bad environment. I know, it's strange to say. You're going, Dean, what are you talking about? Kamara's in a bad environment. He's with the Saints. Yes, but Taysom Hill is still there. Okay. Every single time that Taysom Hill steps on the field, Alvin Kamara owners go, not again, because you don't know what they're going to do. Okay. Is Taysom Hill going to line up at quarterback, take a snap, line up at fullback, take a direct snap? He's going in the slot as a decoy. Are they really going to use him? Is he running reverse? We don't know. So all that decoy stuff. And then Kamara had a whole bunch of injuries last year. We don't have a preseason to see if he's healthy. We have to rely on what we see in camp. And look, camp speed is not game day speed, and there is no game day in between camp and first day. So if you want to take a shot on Alvin Kamara, I don't blame you. I'm not. Okay? I'm going after somebody else in the draft. Shoot, I'll even take Julio higher just to avoid Alvin Kamara. Okay? I get a shot at probably the best receiver for fantasy in the league. Okay? The guy's put up, I believe, over 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards every single season for like the past 4 seasons. So I'm good with that. I don't know about you. So, guys, look, before we wrap this up, I want you guys to remember something. Environmental drafting is very simple. Environment equals your stats. If you have a good environment, you're going to put out good stats. If you have a bad environment, your stats aren't going to be there. Okay? It's not the other way around. Stats don't show up in the beginning of the year. They show up at the end of the year. Your environment comes first, then your stats come. Okay? All these other players out here, all these other guys, they've got these lists of, the ADP, and they've got the projections and the cheat sheets and all this stuff, and you see a guy come in. Look, if you see a guy come in your draft and he lays out a bunch of sheets in front of him, he's trying to get in your head. Forget about it. Okay? Come in, know what you're doing, make you a list, write down your top 20 running backs, top 10 quarterbacks, top 30 receivers that you want to go after. Cross them off. Make sure that you pay attention to your board. I'm going to give you a little tip, okay? Look at your draft board. Get you a list. Write out you guys. You guys know who you're drafting with better than I do. Okay, you guys know who this guy likes and that guy likes. Use that. If you know that a guy likes a player that you want to target, snipe him in a round earlier. Okay? Get in his head, mess with him. It's okay. It's a game. It's fantasy. It's what we do. Okay? So, remember, guys, good environment, bad environment. What environment is your player coming in? Okay? Think about it. Look at your board. Look at who's drafted a quarterback already. Look at who's drafted receiver. That means they're going after a running back. If your running back's coming up and you got to pick before that guy, go get him, because he ain't going to be around next time. Okay? So, I hope it's been helpful, guys. Down the bottom, subscribe, like, and share. And remember, don't forget to go see my sponsors. If you're in the Lafayette area, go down Zia of Lafayette on Duce Road, right behind the Grand Theater on Johnson, right in front of Reds. Go down there. Family deal starting at $35, guys. You can't beat that. Feed the family for $35. It's awesome. And then go visit my friends at Keller's Bakery. See them on Facebook. If you want to go in person, it's 627 Lafayette Street off the Youngsville Highway. And if you tell them the dean sent you, you get 2 free cookies. Guys, that's a sweet deal. Come on. So this has been the Fantasy Football Academy 2020. I always am the dean, and I will see you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Remember, mask up if you're going out, guys.